Hello and welcome to the channel History with Hansa. Today's presentation is the fourth part in the lecture series on Harappan civilization, which will focus upon the economy or the economic life of the Harappans. We have talked about the material characteristics, the important sites, as well as the social life of Harappan civilization in the previous three videos. This one will focus upon economy or economic life. As we have seen, the Harappan civilization was characterized by the presence of a large number of small and large towns. Apart from cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, even very small settlements have yielded material characteristics of an urban economy. Now, an urban economy is characterized by a vast network of relationships. And as we will see in the economic life, the people of Harappa were not only engaged in agriculture and animal husbandry, but also were in active interaction with other cities and towns, which explains how cities established trading networks and carried on interregional trade. And we will also take into account the sources of the raw materials and the extent of contact with the contemporary West Asian civilization. So when we come to the Harappan economy, as I have said, it was based on surplus agriculture, cattle rearing, proficiency in various crafts and brisk trade, both internal and external. So when we analyze the different facets of the Harappan economy, we will do it in two sections. First, we will talk about agriculture and animal husbandry. And in the second part of the presentation, we will talk about trade, both internal and external. Now, agriculture and animal husbandry. Agriculture must have been practiced in Harappan villages which were situated in the floodplains, and it seems that people probably sowed seeds in the floodplains sometime in November when the flood receded and reaped their harvests before the coming of the next flood in April. Now, when we talk about the chief crops, wheat and barley were the chief crops that were cultivated by the Harappans. Then we have evidences of paddy at Lothal, mustard crops, etc. Cotton was another important crop that was raised by the Harappans. And as crops were raised to feed the city dwellers, huge granaries were built to store grains. And it is likely that taxes and wages were paid in the form of grains. So we have good amount of evidences for granaries, particularly in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. As far as canal is concerned, we have no evidence for the use of canal for irrigation purposes. Now, at Kalibangan, furrows have been discovered, which suggests that the fields were ploughed in Rajasthan in the Harappan period. And we also have the evidence for stone sickles, which might have been used for harvesting the crops. Then we come to animal husbandry or domestication of animals, and we know that the Harappans domesticated different kinds of animals: the bull, buffalo, dog, donkey, ram, etc. They also perhaps knew the elephant, camel, monkey, tiger, and rhinoceros. Then we have the fossil remains and evidence of horse. These fossil remains and evidences of horse are found at Mohenjo-daro, Surkota, and Lothal, but it is not possible to say whether the Harappans were acquainted with it. We have a bit of ambiguity in this case. Bull is known from the seals, buffalo is known from toy models. Then hundreds of ivory objects were known, which indicate that elephant was known. Then we have camel bones have been found, if not in large quantity, at least we have evidences of some camel bones. Then we have footprints of dog, which have been traced in many bricks. The bones of donkey have been recovered. Paintings on pottery indicate the acquaintance of the people with wild goat. Bones of cat have been found, and seals also indicate the acquaintance of the Harappans with tiger. So when we talk about the Harappan subsistence system, we find that it was based on the exploitation of a fairly wide range of crops, domesticated animals, and wild animals. This variety would account for the strength of the subsistence system. They were probably already growing two crops annually. They also grew two or more kinds of crops simultaneously. This provided the strength to the economy to support the large population which lived in the cities and did not produce its own food. This was about agriculture and animal husbandry or domestication of animals. Now we come to the second portion, that is trade. In the Harappan civilization, the elaborate social structure and the standard of living must have been maintained by a highly developed system of communication and trade. With the inception of the full urbanism of the mature Indus period, the volume of trade and interaction, both within the Harappan economic circle and outside it, must have increased in scale and variety to a quite unprecedented extent. Now, we find there are indications that trading and procurement of exotic materials was an important concern of the Harappans. And the Harappans engaged in commodity production for which they obtained raw materials from outside. So there were various sources from where different kinds of raw materials were procured. For example, gold may have been imported from South India, especially Mysore, where it was in good supply in antiquity as it is, and it is still mined. Afghanistan and Iran were other likely sources of gold. Silver vessels are frequently found in the Harappan sites, and it have might have been imported from Afghanistan and Iran. Probably the Indus merchants also exchanged their goods with the Mesopotamians for silver. Lead may have come from Kashmir or Rajasthan, and some minor sources were located from Punjab and Balochistan also. Copper may have been brought from South India and from Balochistan and Arabia, though within the Harappan zone itself, Rajasthan was an important source of its supply. Then the precious stone lapis lazuli was available in Badkhashan in northeast Afghanistan. And after lapis lazuli, we have such semi-precious stones as turquoise and jade, which could have been obtained from Central Asia. Then chalcedony, etc. Other semi-precious stones were obtained from Saurashtra and Western India. Seashells, very popular with the Harappans, must have come from the sea coast of Gujarat and Western India. Uh, Now, when we talk about foreign trade, when we talk about Harappa's trade with other civilized states, notably with the cities of Mesopotamia, there are two kinds of evidences: archaeological and literary. Now, the archaeological evidence of trade with West Asia is not very impressive. Why? The reason is that the Harappan trade links did extend to the cities of Mesopotamia, where some 2 dozen Harappan seals have been found in cities like Susa, Ur, Nippur, Kish, etc. But there is a general absence of Mesopotamian trade items at Harappa sites, which is very striking. We have only 3 cylinder seals and only a few metal objects from Mesopotamia in the Indus region. But when we come to the literary evidence, we find that Mesopotamian literature speaks of merchants of Ur carrying on trade with foreign countries. Sargon of Akkad, 2350 BCE, is said to have taken pride in the fact that the ships of Dilmun, Megan, and Meluha passed through his capital. Now, Meluha is generally understood to mean India, especially the Indus region and Saurashtra. The early Mesopotamian literature also refers to a community of merchants from Meluha living in Mesopotamia. These examples indicate that the links between the Harappans and the Mesopotamians were not indirect. Given the distance between these societies, we cannot expect a regular interaction. But relations were fairly close for the Mesopotamian kings to boast about the ships from Meluha coming to their ports. And in fact, the absence of Mesopotamian goods in Harappa can be explained by the fact that traditionally the Mesopotamians exported items like garments, wool, perfumed oil, and leather products, and all these items are perishable, and as such, they have not left any trace. And finally, in trade, we come to the mode of transport, which is very important. And in fact, the discussion about the nature of contact and exchange brings in the question of transportation. Now, many representations of ships and boats have been found on seals in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. At Lothal was found a terracotta model of a ship and also a brick basin, which was believed to be a dockyard. The dockyard, in fact, is the most significant feature of Lothal. Places like Rangpur, Somnath, and Balakot would also have functioned as outlets for the Harappans. Now, inland transport was done with bullock carts, and many terracotta models of bullock carts have been found in Harappan settlements. Then, trade and exchange activities were regulated by a developed system of weights and measures. Numerous articles of chert, limestone, steatite, etc., were used as weights. Now, the prevalence of a uniform system of weights and measures in even the far-flung Harappan sites suggests that there was a central authority to regulate exchange activities. So this is all about trade. So in economic life of the Harappan civilization, we have seen that as important was agriculture and animal husbandry to the people of Harappa, so was trade, both internal and external, quite well developed, with quite well developed modes of transport as well. So this was about economy of Harappan civilization. Look out for my next video on religion and religious beliefs of the Harappans, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you.